They say that if you listen closely, you can still hear her weeping in the dead of night. But it's not the cry of a mother looking for comfort. It's a cry of pure, endless grief and a warning. Stay too long, and you'll hear it grow closer and closer. This is the story of La Llorona, the weeping woman. A tale so old, so terrifying that it still haunts the rivers and streams of Mexico and beyond. Imagine standing by a river, the cool breeze brushing against your skin when you hear it, the faintest sound of someone crying. At first you think it's your mind playing tricks on you, but as the sound grows louder, the sadness more overwhelming. A chill runs down your spine. What would you do? Run? Or stay and find out who's behind the sorrowful wail? You hesitate, but curiosity tugs at you, pulling you closer. With each step, the air grows colder, and the cry becomes sharper, like it's piercing through your soul. But remember, those who stay too long might never leave. Many have tried to ignore the cries, thinking it's just the wind or the distant sound of a river. But those who venture too close often regret it. Legend has it, La Llorona was once a beautiful woman named Maria who lived in a small village in Mexico. She was admired by many, especially for her stunning beauty. She caught the eye of a wealthy man, and together they seemed destined for happiness. They married, had children, and lived what seemed like a perfect life. But as time passed, the man's affection for Maria faded. He was drawn away by the allure of wealth and status, leaving her isolated and broken. And then the final blow came. He left her for another woman. Can you imagine the sting of betrayal? The man you loved, the father of your children, gone. Maria was consumed by jealousy and rage, and as anger often does, it blinded her to reason. In a fit of madness, Maria did the unthinkable. She drowned her 2 young children in the river, the very same river that had once symbolized life and peace in their village. What must have gone through her mind in those final moments as she watched her children's lifeless bodies disappear beneath the water's surface? The guilt must have been unbearable, but it was too late. The water had swallowed them whole, and she was left alone with her monstrous act. Realizing what she had done, Maria was overcome with grief and horror. Desperate to undo the tragedy, she ran alongside the river, screaming their names, searching for their bodies. But they were gone. Overcome with guilt, she threw herself into the water, hoping it would take her too. But instead of finding peace in death, Maria's soul was condemned. She became La Llorona, cursed to wander the earth for eternity, weeping for her lost children. Her cries now echo through the night, calling out to them, but they are forever out of reach. And now it is said that La Llorona's sorrowful wails carry a dark power. They say that if you hear her cries, she might mistake you for one of her children, and if you get too close, she will drag you into the water, just as she did her own. For centuries, sightings of La Llorona have been reported throughout Mexico and the southwestern United States. Witnesses describe a ghostly figure in a long white dress, her hair wet and disheveled, wandering near rivers and lakes, her face twisted in eternal agony. Her cries can be heard late at night, a haunting, mournful sound that sends shivers down the spine. One of the most chilling encounters took place in the 1950s in Texas. A family was traveling along a deserted road near the Rio Grande late one night when they saw a woman standing by the roadside. She was dressed in white, and though it was dark, they could see her face was pale and sorrowful. They stopped, thinking she needed help. But when they approached, the woman suddenly vanished. Moments later, the children in the back seat of the car began crying hysterically, saying they could hear someone weeping. The parents heard nothing, but the children's terror was undeniable. Was it La Llorona calling out to them? Imagine driving alone on a desolate road at night, when out of the corner of your eye you see her, La Llorona. Her figure faint but unmistakable. Would you stop to help her, or would you keep driving, hoping it was just a trick of the light? Another encounter, this time in Mexico City, involved a group of teenagers who decided to test the legend for themselves. They went to a nearby riverbank, late at night, hoping to catch a glimpse of the weeping woman. They laughed, joked, and dared each other to call out her name. But the laughter quickly faded when one of them heard it, a faint cry coming from the river. The others didn't hear it at first, but soon the cries grew louder and louder until it felt like the sound was coming from all around them. Panicked, they ran, but one of the boys claimed that as he looked back, he saw her, a pale figure in white, standing at the water's edge, her eyes locked on him. Can you feel the fear that must have gripped them in that moment? The realization that the legend wasn't just a story to scare children. It was real, and they were in danger. And it's not just ancient folklore. Even today, people swear they've heard her cries. A woman in Arizona reported hearing a mournful wail outside her home late at night. She thought it was a neighbor in distress, but when she stepped outside to check, she saw nothing but the empty desert. The crying continued, growing louder and more desperate until it suddenly stopped. The next morning, she found the faint outline of footprints leading to her door and back to the river. La Llorona is more than just a ghost story. She represents the darkest corners of our human emotions, grief, guilt, and betrayal. Her story is a warning of what can happen when those emotions consume us. Some believe that La Llorona seeks to take the souls of other children to replace her own, while others say she targets those who remind her of her lost love. Either way, her curse is eternal, and her sorrow will never end. Would you dare to walk by a river at night, knowing La Llorona might be waiting? Could you stand to hear her cries, knowing that once you do, there's no going back? Or would you run and pray that her wails don't follow you? As terrifying as La Llorona's story is, the question remains, what is she really? A ghost? A demon? Or something far worse? Is her weeping a sign of remorse, or a lure to draw unsuspecting souls into the water? Perhaps the next time you hear a faint cry in the distance, you won't be so quick to dismiss it as the wind, because, who knows? La Llorona might be closer than you think. If you want to hear more stories that will make you question what's real and what's lurking in the shadows, make sure you subscribe to Dark Whisper. And remember, next time you're near a river at night, listen carefully. La Llorona might be calling for you. Subscribe, if you dare.